Hello, 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 and welcome to today's Marketing, Branding and Getting the Sale show. Can you hear me okay? It looks like there's a bit of disjointedness between my image and what I'm saying, or maybe it's just how it's showing to me.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a bit delayed on my end from picture, but I don't know if that's just my connection. But I can hear you loud
Okay.
and clear, so all good.
All right.
Can
Well,
hear
apologies
you
for that. If
loud
it's
and clear.
a problem, I'm just going to have to not look at my camera. This is like really weird. Anyway, close your eyes if it's a bit of a concern, unless you're driving, of course. Please don't close your eyes if you're driving. Okay. So, good morning, everybody. So today we're talking about how to improve your productivity. This is such an important topic because it just drives everything. If we're not productive, then we don't get to achieve what it is that we want. And also, what I think is really important is that if we're not productive, we don't get to, have the free time that we want to have. People end up working way too many hours. This can really impact their loved ones, their family life, their health, and their well-being. So, I think this is a really important topic. And of course, it has a massive impact on profits. Okay, if it takes you more time to get things done, then that costs you money as well. Whereas if it takes you less time to get things done because you're more productive and you and team members are more productive, then that can be, very, very, it basically creates capacity for you to earn more profits. So Razan is saying, great subject to discuss. Looking forward. Excellent. All right. Well, look, before we dive in, let's do some quick intros. Jess, let's come to you. And actually, I'm just going to turn off and back on my camera again, see if it makes any difference. But Jess, you do your intro while I'm doing that.
Yeah, of course. So good morning, everybody. For those of you that maybe have not seen me before, what do I do? Well, did you know that your logo and your visual identity, your colours, your fonts is only 16% of your brand? So there's 84% more that your brand needs to stand out, be memorable, build reputation. And so many businesses are missing this 84%. And then they struggle with the website, getting sales into the website, keeping motivated and engaged staff, relying too much on word of mouth referrals. So I work with them sort of businesses to make sure they have everything that their brand needs to thrive. So if you're interested in what makes up a brand, drop me a message. I'll give you a quick checklist and you can see how much of your brand you have as well.
Lovely. Thank you, Jess. Stephen.
Good morning, everybody. Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS. If you're struggling to get appointments to help grow your business because you don't like picking up the phone, you don't want to pick up the phone for fear of rejection, or you just don't have the manpower resource to do it full time, then please give me a call and I can help you by generating those leads, generating interest, making those appointments, and hopefully bringing you more business.
Fabulous. Thank you, Stephen. And if you don't know me yet, I'm Una Doyle. My business is Creative Flow. And I'm on a mission to help business owners to build a business that they could sell tomorrow, but probably don't want to, because it is highly profitable. It is fun to run because they and team members are in Creative Flow, and because they get to make a bigger impact in the world. If you want to know more about that and book a call where I can show you how you can double your profits at no cost to you, then comment below or send me a DM and I'll be happy to do that. Okay, so let's dive into today's topic, all about increasing productivity. So here's the first thing that I would say about productivity is to be strategic. You've got to have strategy first, business strategy, then marketing strategy. Because when you do that, then you make sure that you're doing the right things. So there's no point being efficient if you're not being effective. I think being strategic in your business makes that difference between, oh, we do everything efficiently and actually we're getting the right things done. What's your thoughts on that?
For me, it's relating to a debate that I was listening on a podcast the other day about working smarter, not harder. And then obviously, so that was a debate. If we've got to work smart, are we running around being busy and working hard and not working smart? But then the other flip of the coin, the other side of the debate I listened to was, that putting that effort in, you know, being hard doesn't mean working hard doesn't mean you're busy. So yeah, that being that effective and efficient, and the, you know, versus, and making sure you got both, or either or however we're going to explore it today, is bringing up that debate. So that's something that we can maybe touch on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the interesting thing, is that if you structure your business in the right way, then the more successful your business becomes, the less busy you ought to become. You know, so that you have the freedom of choice about how many hours you want to work, about how hard you want to work. Of course, what I'm not saying is that, oh, you can just sit back and do nothing. Like, of course, there has to be oversight of every asset, whether that's an investment or whether that's a business. You know, there's no such thing as 100% passive income, even though, you know, people might talk about property, for instance, or investments as being passive income, and they can be quite passive, but they still require people looking at them and reviewing them. Every asset needs to be managed. But, you know, are you actually building a business that is creating assets that are working for you? You know, whether those assets are kind of sales funnels, you know, team members who can go out and do things for you, systems and processes that automate the thing that don't need a high touch human component. So if you're strategic in how you know, structure your business and work your business and grow it, then you ought to get to that point where the business can actually run without you. Because if the business can't run without you, you have a job, you know. And look, you know, I'm in the process of doing this. You know, so like, I don't do everything in my business. I have some team members doing some things. I do have, like, I've got a team of mindset coaches working with me. My plan is by next year to have at least one other coach doing the business side of it as well, you know, working with my clients. So, you know, I'm working towards doing that. So if you're strategic, yeah, I think it makes a difference. I think the whole thing about, you know, the working hard, that it's not always about the hours. I think what it is the hard work is often building those foundations and making hard decisions, rather than the kind of time and effort you put in. That's what I would say is actually the working hard. Because when people have a successful business, they've learned what to say no to. They've learned what they will and won't tolerate in team members, in clients, in suppliers. And so there's often hard decisions that need to be made, difficult conversations that have to be had. And I think that's probably the harder aspect when you're, like, if you're serious about really growing a business. Stephen, what's your thoughts?
Here's my take. So, if you're new in business, or, you know, new in having your own business, to be productive, you've got to have key personnel in place, and that comes with time. I'm at the stage now, and I mean, I'm at the very beginning of my business journey, and I'm struggling to let go of certain things because, you know, people say, we want you to do it, you know, because we've spoken to you. And, you know, in order for me to be more productive, I've got to relay some information to my clients to say, look, I can do it, but I have a team behind me. I want to be productive. I don't want to say this to them, but I've got other things that I want to do. I want to grow the business, and I want to have key personnel in place to allow me to be more productive, to get other things done. You know, and it's a journey. And you're right. It's knowing when to say no, when to hand things over. But it's all about confidence, isn't it? You've got to have confidence in your team, you know, for them to be productive. Yes. And then another random thought that I have about productivity is multitasking. There's this massive misnomer that multitasking is the greatest thing in the world. It's not. It's not. It's not human nature to multitask. And in fact, I read somewhere recently that multitasking can actually make you about 40% less productive.
Definitely.
I can't cope. Simple things. I mean, listen, I can just about walk and talk and breathe at the same time. But when it comes to, like, having a conversation and making notes, I can't do it. I have to focus on one thing at the time. And I get really frustrated when people start talking to me while I'm doing so. I can't do it, you know. So that's the random thought about multitasking, about trying to be productive.
It is interesting. There are some gender differences in how brains work. So men tend to be kind of single track. Women can be multi-track, but I think it's more about them being able to, like in group conversations, men and women behave differently. So women often kind of talk over each other, but they kind of do it in a way that's really, they're engaged and they're hearing and they're listening to what each other are going on.
How you do it,
So it's because our brains, literally more areas of our brains light up when we're in conversation with people. Now I can do things like, part of my plan for this morning is I'm going to go for a walk. I'm not sure if it's going to be inside or outside looking at the clouds, but I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to review one of my podcast episodes. So this is the kind of the first draft that's been produced. And so I can listen to that and I can walk, and then I can kind of pause and make notes of, oh, I want to prioritize this bit or edit this bit out, or you know what I mean? I can do that kind of thing. There's kind of simple multitasking where you're doing something that doesn't require thought, like walking. But even so, I probably pause when I actually make notes. But I can listen and walk at the same time. But, apart from things like that, you're right, multitasking doesn't work, even for women. So, I can watch a training thing and do the ironing, or, something like that. Like something mindless with something that requires thought is usually okay. But trying to do two things that require thought doesn't work, because our brain has to switch from one to the other. And this is where that decrease in productivity comes. It's called context switching. And it can take up to 15, 20 minutes for us to get back into the zone after we've been interrupted or we switch from one thing to another. So yeah, multitasking definitely doesn't work. So that's one way to increase your productivity. Stop trying to multitask.
I think the language is important as well, isn't it? Because we're brought up in a world where multitasking is kind of, a proud thing to do. I've been busy. Oh, are you busy? Yeah, I'm really busy. Oh, good. I'm glad. Are you working? When we look at busy, going back to kind of what we were saying before, we're looking at time. So, oh, are you busy? Yeah, I'm rushed off my feet. Oh, good, that's good. So you're doing well, and we're kind of tuned into this kind of language, aren't we, just in society? So it comes second nature to us to recognize these things when they're not in fact true or not in fact helping us along. So I find that really fascinating.
I think it's really key, and apologies, I know I've just made a spelling mistake in this. The key is like this whole attitude of, when people are asking, are you busy? I think what they're really asking is, how's your business going? Are you making the sales that you want? Are you making the profits that you want? But that's a very direct and more personal question. So people go, how's it going? Are you busy? And that implies that. So when people are saying, oh, yes, like one of the things I'll often reply to that is, yeah, busy as I want to be, thank you. Because I don't want to build, this thing in about, I don't want to kind of perpetuate this idea that you have to be busy and spread too thin and all of that kind of stuff, So we got a comment here from Deborah. Welcome, Deborah. So she's saying she's working on a client's this morning and has to be super disciplined with time to ensure she's productive when she's on site. Yeah, outsourcing non-essential tasks is key. Concentrate on the essentials and become the master of delegation. Absolutely. I'll be coming to that one. So second part of this then is about planning. Okay, so once you've got your strategy in place, that you then need to have a plan to put things into action. So now I would start this planning by making sure that first off, you've got crystal clear longer term and medium term vision for your life and for your business. Okay, what does that look like? Like when you get to the end of your life, what do you want to look back on? What do you want to be said at your funeral? What do you want to what do you want to be remembered for? Okay, so get clear on those visions so that you get to live the life that you really want, and that we're not always in control of things, but that you're driving, the life that you want to have, rather than always being totally responsive to everybody else's. And it can really help, particularly if you're a people pleaser, then, if you've got a crystal clear vision and you're focused on that, then, it's got to be, that's something that's driving your life, that's driving your business, and you've got to, put that in place. So get clear on your vision, and then, I love 90-day planning. You've heard me talk about this before, if you've been, if you're a regular watcher here, or if you've spoken to me. And then I would really make sure that you're basing it on the 5 steps. Just before I go into the 5 steps, hey Richard, good to see you, long time no see. Richard saying, so glad to hear we don't need to be super busy watching from bed. Absolutely.
That's what made me laugh. I was laughing at before.
Yeah. So great. All right. So let me just share with you what these 5 steps are pretty quickly. So the first one, oh, that doesn't come up very well, does it? Apologies. I thought this would have kind of block us all out, but it doesn't. Never mind. So you can get the idea here. So we have these 5 steps. The first of these is more leads. Okay. So notice the first of these is foundations. More leads is the second one. So part of the foundations is your strategy, but it's also things like being clear on your market dominating position. So something you've probably also heard me talk about as well. So having that business strategy, having your marketing strategy in place is really clear, really important part of your foundations. But it's also things like having your team in place. So like Deborah was saying, you've got to make sure that you're delegating appropriately, and you've got the right team members on board, whether they're people you're outsourcing to, whether they're, actual employees. It's making sure that you're doing that. So the second thing then is about more leads. Now, when you have the right foundations in place, it is so much easier to attract the right prospects to your business. Okay. And a lot of the time, like I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were saying, oh, well, I'm having conversations with people, but they haven't got the money for my services. And so, well, part of that is because they don't have all of the right foundations in place in order to attract the people who they can actually, who they can actually really help, and who can prioritize and afford their services, to make sure that that works. Okay, so the third step then, make sure I pick the right one, here we go, is more conversions. So once you've actually got that steady stream of leads coming through, you want to have the things in place to allow you to convert those people from prospects to paying clients. And it's really interesting. Again, the right foundations makes a massive, massive difference. So a lot of the time when I'm working with people on their market dominating position, I'm helping them to innovate around, their products and services, and helping them to, number one, be able to not be compared with their competitors, so they can't compete on price. They're not getting that price sensitivity, from their clients, because they're creating this environment where their clients feel, well, I'd be a fool to go anyone else. It's a no-brainer to buy from you, to work with you. That's the kind of conversion thing you want to create. So it's partly about how you position yourself. It's partly about what you're actually offering to people and inviting them to buy. And then it's also about the steps you put in place, the elements and assets you put in place to help people, convert from a prospect to a customer. The next part then is about more transactions. So what can you do in your business to ensure that people buy from you more often, or they buy more things from you? And it's really interesting to think about the measures that you might have in your business. This can actually really focus you. If you're measuring the wrong things, then that can cause you to take the wrong actions. When you're measuring the right things, then that can really help. So for instance, Amazon, one of their key measures is actually the basket size. The same from a lot of e-commerce businesses. What's the size of the basket? How can we get people to add something else and add something else? And of course, when you add something to the basket, there's things popping up. People who bought this also bought that. So if you have a service-based business, business, there's other ways that you can increase the numbers of transactions as well. And of course, that, massively increases your profits. And that's the fifth step. Is about looking at profit strategies so that you can ensure that you're not just getting the revenues that you want in your business, but that's actually translating into the money you get to take out of your business as well. So, when I'm working with people on the 90-day plans and making sure that they're focused on each of those 5 steps. Now, there probably will be emphasis on 1 or 2 of those, depending on what stage of business growth they're at. When a business is more established, quite often it's focused more on profit strategies and more transactions. In the beginning stages of business, they're more focused on more leads. But what you've got to understand is the compounding effect of these 5 steps on each other. Okay, and I can actually show you how just small improvements in each of these 5 steps can actually help you to double your profits. So book a call with me if you want to know more about that. Okay, before we move on to the next thing, what's your thoughts on what I just shared there?
So for me, obviously, step number 1, the foundations. I think, and forgive me if this is wrong, but isn't it? It's also important to review, your foundation. Excuse me. You build your foundations; they've got to be strong. But if something's not working, or you need to move goalposts slightly, you should always, continually check back and review and make sure everyone's in the loop. Because whilst you, as the business owner, have got to build those foundations, you've got to keep everyone in the loop as well, haven't you? And if things aren't working, review them, change them slightly. As long as it's the base is strong, all steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 will work, won't they? So,
yeah. Definitely. And this actually brings us nicely onto another part of increasing your productivity, which is prioritization. So your plan is prioritizing. So say you got a 90-day plan, you know what you're looking to achieve within that time. And the way I do it with my clients, they actually know what they're going to be focusing on each week. Sometimes life happens. We need to be constantly reprioritizing on a weekly and daily basis, really, but making sure that you're reviewing your progress on your plan. And there are times when you might need to evaluate opportunities, or you may need to reevaluate if something's going on. So for instance, I have a client who something was going on with their family, and we actually ended up rejigging their plan because there was no way they were going to be able to achieve what they wanted while being able to deal with the family issue. So sometimes things like that happen, but it's much better to rejig your plan in situations like that, or to make sure you put things in place to catch up on the plan if you've fallen behind, rather than getting to the end of your planning period, especially if it's a year. If it was 90 days, at least it's a few months. You've still got more to go at. So to reprioritize continuously allows you to adapt. It allows you to tinker and tweak with what it is that you're doing. So absolutely, Stephen, I think that's really key. So another step is to make sure that you're getting in flow. So this is about working to your natural strengths and personality. It's really about making your weaknesses irrelevant. Okay, a lot of the time we are literally schooled and trained as employees to fix our weaknesses. This is why you get employees with the same things coming up all the time in reviews. Oh, you still haven't improved this, you still haven't improved that. Well, the thing is, someone could put a whole load of effort into fixing a weakness and they'd get like this much improvement. But they put the same effort into where their natural strengths lie and they get this much improvement. So we want to make sure that we're structuring our business in such a way that we make sure our business model is aligned to our natural strengths, to make sure that we're hiring team members and creating roles for those team members, that people can, that we're setting them up for success, that they're going to be able to really grow and thrive in those roles, rather than actually losing confidence and performing poorly because no one person could succeed in that role, or they're just in the wrong role and you should have somebody else doing those things. So structure, systems and processes, having the right team members in the right seat, all of those things can help make sure that you get in flow. And then the final part is about staying focused. So if you've been listening regularly, you'll have heard me talk about FocusMate. So FocusMate.com is virtual video co-working. If you have a team and you're working remotely, have a team Zoom or Teams or whatever, so that people can talk to each other regularly. Make sure that you have an environment that is conducive to the type of work that you are doing, and you might even want to change that environment up a bit as well. So, if you're doing lots of calls, maybe you want to be somewhere comfortable, that you feel more relaxed and more chatty and things like that. If you're doing your, some finance stuff, then you want to have a clear desk but no distractions. Think about the environment for the tasks that you're doing. And it's okay to move around different parts of your office or different parts of your home if you have a home office. Or even sometimes you might want to go outside the home. Some people I was talking to yesterday, they were saying, oh yeah, when I come to do this kind of work, I love to go to a cafe. So, and I've done things like that in the past. So I found it hard to get the cafes that have a good enough signal. So I often stay home. But making sure that you're doing that. And another key part of staying focused is doing the mindset work. You see, quite often I can help people to get into flow, but if they don't also do the mindset work around things, they often get taken out of flow because maybe they start to see some signs of success and then they start wanting to sabotage it. And so making sure that doesn't happen is really key as well. So thank you, Jonathan. He's saying, love these. And great points that he loves these, so thank you for that. So I know I'm just conscious of time. There was a lot that we've talked about here today. Jess, what's your thoughts on, we've been talking about the prioritization, getting in flow and staying focused. What jumps out at you the most?
I think something that I'd love to hear a bit more about is how to prioritize, what to prioritize, and what to delegate and things like that. Because you mentioned being in flow and your strengths and your weaknesses. That's a great point to look at and go, well, all this activities come quite naturally to me. It doesn't take a lot of energy, but these kind of activities take up so much energy and time. So, okay, I can delegate them sort of things, but how else can we spot them or not just fall into the trap of spreading ourselves too thinly and trying to be good at everything?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, spreading yourself too thin is the topic of the podcast that we put out 2 weeks ago. So the second season of She Leads Business. So check that out. I think you've got to be monitoring things. If you're not monitoring your progress, so if you don't have performance indicators in place, if you don't have a plan that you're regularly looking at, then things just drift. They absolutely drift. So I was in a group of people yesterday, and one person was saying, sometimes I get to Friday and I'm just like, oh, things are just gone. The day's just gone, and I'm meant to do X, Y, and Z, but I haven't got it done. And that's because this particular person, they don't have a plan. So they've nothing to actually track against. So having that 90-day allows you to track against your plan. Having, key performance indicators in place allows you to track, well, how am I doing? So, and it could just be something as simple as someone who's looking to fill up the pipeline. It could be, have I booked an appointment today? Right. Once I've booked an appointment, I'm going to get on with some other things. It can be as simple as that. I think making sure when you are delegating, making sure that delegation isn't abdication. You need to make sure that people have, processes to follow, ideally. Because like a lot of the time, like particularly when I'm working with creative people, then, they're great at doing project work. They're not so great at doing repetitive, recurring work. So quite often when you get to the point that you've been able to turn a project into a process, quite often you can then hand that off to a team member. And Jonathan's making the great point. If someone else can do it 70% as well as you should probably pass it on to them. Absolutely, because you want to be working on your business rather than in it. And I think part of what stops people doing this is being a control enthusiast, shall we say, a term I heard is a bit nicer than control freak. So, you know, a lot of creative people, we love to be in control. I think it's just something in human nature. But the thing is that if you can look at your own leadership and being able to let go appropriately, but you've got to do it step by step. You've got to do it in a way that you're checking that these people are actually capable of doing what you want them to do, and then that they have the tools and the information to be able to do what you want them to be doing. And I think when it comes to having confidence, like Stephen was saying, in team members, is that there's got to be those quality control checks in place. So that you know, and then like not just getting them set up and okay, great, that person's capable of it, but there needs to be some ongoing, not micromanagement, not looking over their shoulder all the time, but there needs to be some kind of reporting so that you can quickly see, wait a minute, there's something off here. These numbers don't add up.
It's all about that reviewing, isn't it? You ultimately, you know, the art of good management is delegation. But like you said a few moments ago, it's all about setting people up for success.
Exactly.
You know, you want them to do well. Ultimately, if they do well, number one, they stay. Number two, they're super productive. And number three, the business flourishes. So you can't just pass things off because you want to work on your business. You got to make sure that you're giving the right people the right tasks and the right responsibilities. Because at the end of the day, it is all about being a team, isn't it? You're more productive if everyone's, as you say, in flow, doing the jobs that they're good at, not the ones that they want to do, but what you know they're good at. So it's about assigning the right tasks and the right responsibilities to the right people, the key people that are going to make you and the business much more productive.
Absolutely. I think just, you know, kind of as a final answer to your question, Jess, you just got to have the finger on the pulse of your business.
Absolutely.
Now, as a business grows and you've got a team in place, or maybe even multiple teams in place, then you can have managers who are managing those people, who are managing those processes and those numbers, and then they report to you. So, and I think that's actually very appealing to a lot of creative people. They don't want to be a manager, but if you want to have a business that you could sell, if you want to really create that business asset that's going to secure your future and also just make a bigger impact, then, you know, heading towards that place where you're not a manager, but you're a leader in your business. It's stepping up to that so that you are able to appropriately let go of control, and then be able to really focus on where you shine, the things that only you can do in your business.
Yeah, I love that. And even, you know, when you were talking about creating things into a process so people can do that, a bit of advice that I got through that as well, which could help people, because then I thought, oh God, I've got to sit down and make a process. I've got to create like a flow chart. I've got to not just like even just screen record what you're doing, things like that. Just, you know, screen recording anything that you're doing now, whether you want to delegate it or not. And then you've got an archive of these little videos and go, oh, actually, now I want to delegate this task and I already have that at hand. So that's something that that could help people looking to do that. Also, I like what Jonathan said with the 70%. If someone can do it 70% as well as you can, because a lot of the things that I hear as well is people going, well, I want to employ someone like me. I want to employ someone that's as good as I am at this task. You know, and if it's not done as well as I can do it, I might as well just do it. But then that's when you're working late in the evening, you're working late at the weekend, you're spreading yourself too thinly, like we said. And one last little point as well, which I only heard this morning whilst I was listening to a book, was kind of the 80-20 rule, which kind of falls on a lot of things, doesn't it? You know, with your clothes, they say you wear 20% of your whole wardrobe, sort of thing. But even in business, it's looking at, okay, so 20% of your activities and what you're doing is probably bringing in the most profit and kind of being the most productive. So how can you leverage that? How can you capitalize on that? So like you say, we're tracking the KPIs, being conscious of what part of the business kind of shines through. Absolutely. So even just remember 80-20.
Absolutely. And those 5 steps that I shared, that's all about the 80-20 rule. Because the thing is that 80% of results comes from activity that happens in those 5 steps. So I say, why do anything that in your business that does not fall in one of those 5 steps? Because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of effort. It's not getting you the results that you want.
It's about learning to let go of the things that aren't conducive, isn't it? You know.
Yep.
It's absolutely about letting go, and that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. Everything's a process.
It is indeed, and I think one of the things I would also say is some of the other conversations that came out from this group yesterday as well was I think there's a real tendency for people to compare themselves, to compare where they are with what they see on social media. And so when they were saying, oh yeah, I'm always seeing like these ads or posts about, oh, I grew my business to 6 figures in 6 months. And I said, yeah, but what you don't know is that the chances are the person behind that business, this is not their first business. They probably had 3, 4, 5 businesses before that didn't work or didn't work as well as this is. This is just a new iteration of that. That's, you know, they've, or maybe they came into it with money or with funding and they were able to hire experts straight off the bat to be able to get things done. You can't compare, you know, your story to somebody else's. So you've no idea what went on in the background, or if they're even being honest.
You don't see the work that's led up to the point that they're at. You only seen the final the edited version. There's a lot of work that goes into making people successful. Exactly. There's a lot of failures. I mean, for example, is it Edison with the light bulb? How many times did he get it wrong before he got it right? Thousands. 1,000, over 1,000 times. Yeah. And the other thing is that you know, just because someone has said, oh, I've got to 6 figures in revenue, you've no idea how much or if any profit is in that. They might be spending all their money on ads and experts and not actually be making any money yet. Maybe they're able to do that because they have someone who's able to support them in their life. Maybe they have savings that they can live off. You know, you just no idea what's actually going on behind the scenes. So the other way of stopping preparing, and this kind of falls into that staying focused and having the right mindset part of it, is don't compare yourself with other people. You know, stay in your own lane. What other people are up to is none of your business. You know, so make sure that you're focused on what you are doing, what you're achieving. And you know, absolutely that 80-20 rule, follow those 5 steps, get planning, make sure you're being strategic in everything you do. Otherwise you can end up implementing lots of tactics that might work for a while, but if you don't understand the underlying principles or the strategy behind something, all tactics stop working eventually. You know, so because things change. The landscape changes, the economic landscape changes. Your buyers become more sophisticated as they're exposed to more and more marketing messages. So you've got to be able to adapt by understanding at a deeper level what makes, you know, what is business really about? What is marketing really about? So, and as we talked about before, a lot of what is taught in universities and colleges, it doesn't work for small and medium-sized businesses. So we need to remember that as well. Right, I'm just really conscious of time. This has been a very long one. So I think we will wrap it up there, unless there's any burning questions from you, Stephen or Jess. No, you covered everything. It's great. I love the five steps. Brilliant. It's so easy. It's so succinct as well. It's not rocket science.
It isn't.
No.
It isn't rocket science. Simple. You know, and so often I think our human brains want things to be complex.
Absolutely.
And people often believe, oh, well, it can't be that simple. Yeah, it actually is. But simple isn't always easy.
No.
So focusing on that 20% that gives you the 80% of results isn't always easy. Having challenging conversations with a team member that isn't pulling their weight isn't easy. Letting go of control and delegating appropriately isn't always easy. But these are the things that are actually going to, really drive you forward. And they're the kind of clients that I want to be working with, the people who are prepared to do the hard things. It's not about working more hours. It's about being prepared to do the hard things. That is, being ambitious, really wanting to go for it, wanting to make a difference. Those are the things that I'm looking for in my clients anyway. Yeah. Fabulous. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone who's been watching. We'll be back same time next week. We will see you then. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.